You're never going to see our kids again. Not you. Not even the police." The words came through the phone speaker, cold and sharp as a blade. I stood frozen in the tiny apartment kitchen, my 4-year-old son's Spider-Man cup still in my hand, milk droplets on the counter catching the afternoon light. My ex-husband's voice, that voice I'd once found comforting, that voice that had promised to love and protect me, was now a weapon aimed directly at my heart. "You think you can just take my kids and move away? You're done, Jessica. You're never seeing them again. Not with the police. Not with lawyers. Not ever." My hands started trembling. The phone slipped slightly in my grip, slick with the sweat that had suddenly formed on my palms. My breasts ached. I'd stopped breastfeeding our daughter Maria only 3 months ago, and my body still hadn't fully adjusted. The physical pain mixed with the psychological terror washing over me, creating a wave of nausea so intense I had to grip the counter to stay upright. He'd kidnapped our children. My baby girl, barely walking. My little boy, who still asked me to check for monsters under his bed every single night. Gone. Taken by their own father to punish me for the crime of leaving him, for the audacity of trying to build a life where I wasn't being destroyed piece by piece. I sank to the floor, back against the cheap laminate cabinets, and the sob that tore from my chest sounded like something dying, because something was dying. The last fragile hope I'd held that he might have some decency left, some small corner of his heart that still cared about our children's well-being more than his need for revenge. But let me back up. Because to understand how I ended up here, 32 years old, alone in a studio apartment in Modesto, fighting for my kids through a legal system that moved like molasses while my ex-husband played puppet master with my babies, you need to know where this all started. You need to understand the pattern that was woven through my entire life, the thread of loss and survival that led me to mistake a life preserver for a hand trying to drown me. My name is Jessica Marie Torres, and right now, as I'm telling you this story, I'm a singer performing at venues across Southern California. I help run a nonprofit supporting women escaping domestic violence. I'm raising 2 incredible kids on my own, and most days, I'm genuinely happy. But my story? It begins in a much darker place, with a loss so profound, it shaped every single decision I'd make for the next 25 years. I have crystal clear memories starting around age 5 or 6. That's when everything changed. That's when I lost my older brother Joseph, and when I lost him, I lost the only person who'd ever made me feel truly safe in this world. Joseph was 17, 1 month shy of his 18th birthday. We shared a birthday, April 7th. I was about to turn 6. He was about to become an adult, graduate high school, start his real life. We'd always celebrated together, this special bond between the oldest and the youngest, and I remember planning our party in my head. I wanted a Barbie cake. He wanted his friends over for a barbecue. We never had that party. Joseph was the one who took care of me. My mom worked long hours as a seamstress in a textile factory, leaving before dawn and coming home after dark, her fingers pricked and bandaged, smelling like industrial fabric and exhaustion. My dad traveled constantly for work. He was a sales rep for a food distribution company, gone 4 or 5 days a week, chasing accounts across California to keep food on our table. So Joseph was there, always there. He walked me to school every morning, my small hand in his bigger one, him pointing out dogs in yards and telling me their names, making up stories about where the birds were flying to. He made my breakfast, usually Cheerios with sliced bananas, a combination I can't stomach to this day because the memory is too heavy. He helped me with homework even though he didn't always understand it himself. He let me sleep in his room when I had nightmares, never complained when I took up 3/4 of his bed. Our family was blended. I have 5 siblings total. Joseph, Naomi, and Kyle were my half-siblings from my mom's first marriage. They were like a staircase of kids, each about 1.5 years apart. Then came me and my full brother Connor, from my mom's second marriage to my dad. There was always this slight division in the house, the older 3 and the younger 2, but Joseph never made me feel that way. To him, I was just his little sister, his Jessie bug, he called me. It happened during spring break, March 1999. Joseph went to a beach bonfire party with his friends in Santa Monica, a normal teenage thing, the kind of party that happens every weekend in Southern California. They were roasting marshmallows, playing music, probably drinking beer they'd managed to get someone's older brother to buy for them. Around midnight, Joseph collapsed. Just fell over mid-conversation, his friends told us later. They thought he was joking at first. Joseph was always joking, always the class clown. But he wasn't joking. He'd had a sudden cardiac arrhythmia, an electrical misfire in his heart that killed him before the ambulance could even arrive. The doctors said it was a congenital defect, something he'd been born with, a ticking time bomb nobody knew was there. They said he probably never felt pain. They said it was instant. I don't know if they were telling the truth or if they were just trying to comfort my parents. I hope it was true. I can't bear the thought of Joseph being scared or hurting in those last moments. I was too young to understand death. They brought his body home for the wake. That's how we did it in our community, keeping the deceased at home for family to pay respects. And I remember walking up to the casket in our living room, standing on my tiptoes to see him lying there in his good shirt, the blue one he wore to church, and I genuinely thought he was just sleeping very deeply. "When is Joseph going to wake up?" I asked my Aunt Rosa, tugging on her black skirt. "It's almost lunchtime. He always makes my lunch." She burst into tears and hurried away. Nobody would answer my questions. Everyone was crying, wearing black, speaking in hushed voices like they were in a library. The house smelled like lilies, a smell I still can't stand. It makes me gag. And there were casseroles appearing on our kitchen counter from neighbors and church members, all these covered dishes that nobody ate because nobody could eat. I climbed onto the couch next to the casket and fell asleep there, one hand reaching through the wooden bars to touch Joseph's cold fingers. When I woke up hours later, I asked my mom, "Is he awake yet? Can he play with me now?" My mom was so heavily sedated she could barely form words. I found out years later that the doctor had given her Valium, lots of it, trying to keep her from collapsing completely. But I think it made everything worse. Instead of being present for her grief, she was trapped in this fuzzy, underwater version of it, unable to process, unable to heal. My dad was there physically but absent emotionally. He stood at the casket for hours, just staring down at Joseph, his jaw clenched so tight I could see the muscles jumping. He didn't cry where I could see. Years later, my mom told me he'd sobbed in the garage, hidden behind his workbench, where he thought nobody would hear. The funeral was enormous. Joseph had been popular. He played basketball, was in the drama club, had friends from 3 different schools. The church was packed, standing room only. I sat in the front pew, swinging my legs because they didn't touch the ground, wearing a scratchy black dress my mom had bought the day before, wondering when we'd get to go home so Joseph could wake up. After the burial, my parents made a decision that would alter the trajectory of all our lives. We had to leave. They couldn't stay in Riverside, couldn't walk past Joseph's bedroom, couldn't drive by the high school where he should have been graduating. Every corner of that city held his ghost. 2 weeks after we buried my brother, we packed everything we owned into a U-Haul truck and moved to Los Angeles. That's where my childhood really shattered into pieces. We stayed with my mom's sister, my Aunt Carla, in her small house in East LA. She had 3 kids of her own, so suddenly there were 8 children under one roof. Aunt Carla was strict, overwhelmed by the invasion, and made it very clear we were guests who needed to follow her rules. "You kids play in the backyard. Don't come in the house during the day. You'll track dirt everywhere. Don't touch anything. Don't make noise. Your mother is grieving." The backyard was concrete and dead grass, enclosed by a chain-link fence. There was an old basketball hoop without a net, a rusted swing set. Nothing else. Connor and I spent hours out there, bored and scared and confused, while Naomi stayed inside helping with the younger cousins. I cried constantly. My whole face was perpetually swollen, eyes puffy and red, nose chapped from wiping it on my sleeves. I didn't understand why Joseph was gone. I didn't understand why we'd left our house, our school, my pink bedroom with the butterfly lamp. I didn't understand why my mom wouldn't look at me anymore, because that's what hurt most. I'd lost Joseph, but I'd also lost my mother. She was physically present, moving through the house like a ghost, but emotionally she'd died with him. She couldn't hold me when I cried because she was drowning in her own tears. She couldn't comfort me because she had no comfort left to give. Life in Los Angeles was brutal in ways I couldn't articulate as a child, but felt in my bones. We weren't starving. I want to be clear about that. But we went without so many basic necessities. My shoes had holes in the soles. Connor and I shared clothes, passing them back and forth, even though I was a girl and he was a boy. We ate a lot of rice and beans, sometimes just rice with butter and salt, There was an elderly woman who lived across the street from Aunt Carla's house, Mrs. Wallace. She was African American, probably in her 70s. With gray hair she kept in a neat bun and kind eyes behind thick glasses. Every single morning she'd call me over to her front porch. "Sweet girl," she'd say, "you look hungry. I made too much breakfast again. Can you help me out?" And she'd hand me a banana and a small pack of crackers, sometimes cookies, sometimes a granola bar, every single day. I think Mrs. Wallace saw what my family couldn't see, that I was disappearing, getting smaller, quieter, sadder. To this day, I cannot eat bananas. The texture, the smell, it sends me right back to that porch, to being 6 years old and so hollow inside that even gratitude felt heavy. School was a nightmare. The elementary school in East LA was nothing like the one I'd attended in Riverside. It was bigger, louder, rougher. The other kids picked up immediately that I was different. The quiet girl from somewhere else. The one who cried at lunch. The one who didn't know how to make friends. They called me crybaby. They called me weirdo. Once, a group of girls cornered me by the bathrooms and pulled my hair, demanding to know why I was always so sad. Did somebody die or something? One of them mocked. "My brother," I whispered. They laughed. They thought I was lying to get attention. I got bullied relentlessly. I stopped raising my hand in class. I stopped eating lunch because the cafeteria was too overwhelming. Too many kids, too much noise. I lost even more weight. My teacher, Mrs. Kim, called my parents in for a conference, but my mom couldn't come. She was too depressed to leave the house. So my dad went alone and told them we were going through a family situation and to please be patient. Nothing changed. After about 8 or 9 months of hell in Los Angeles, my parents decided to move back to Riverside. Being close to family, my grandmother, my aunts and uncles, people who knew Joseph, who understood our grief, was better than hiding from it in a city that felt hostile and cold. We moved into a small rental house near my grandmother's neighborhood. Things improved marginally. At least I had my abuela nearby, and she'd make me arroz con leche and tell me stories about when my mom was young, giving me glimpses of a mother who'd once been happy. But I don't remember much from this period either. It's like my brain has blocked out huge chunks of my childhood. Protective amnesia, my therapist calls it now. The trauma was too much to process, so my mind just archived it somewhere I couldn't access. What I do remember vividly is starting 3rd grade at a new school. I was so far behind academically. While everyone was learning multiplication, I was still struggling with subtraction. I couldn't focus. I'd sit at my desk and drift away, thinking about Joseph, remembering how he'd help me sound out words, and then the teacher would snap at me for not paying attention. One day, I'll never forget this, Mrs. Henderson, my 3rd grade teacher, made me stand in front of the class. "Jessica doesn't understand fractions," she announced. "Can anyone explain why she might be struggling? Why do you think Jessica can't keep up with the rest of you?" The classroom went silent. 30 pairs of eyes on me. "Maybe," Mrs. Henderson continued, "it's because she's not trying hard enough. Maybe she's just not smart enough to be in this class." I wanted the floor to open up and swallow me. I wanted to disappear, to evaporate, to cease existing. "Are you stupid, Jessica? Is that the problem?" I couldn't answer. I just stood there, tears streaming down my face, while she made an example of me. That moment created a trauma around classrooms and learning that followed me through my entire childhood and into my teenage years. Even now, at 32, walking into a room where I'm expected to learn something new makes my heart race and my palms sweat. I became a deeply depressed child. I was sad all the time, withdrawn, unable to connect with other kids. My mom was still drowning in her own grief, functioning enough to make dinner and do laundry, but emotionally unavailable. My dad worked constantly, often 2 jobs, trying to keep us afloat financially. My siblings and I fought viciously. Without Joseph as the buffer, the peacekeeper, we turned on each other. Kyle and Naomi resented me and Connor. We were reminders of the new family, the replacement kids. Connor and I fought with each other out of frustration and fear. The house was full of screaming and slammed doors and a sadness so thick you could feel it in the air. I felt completely alone, profoundly, existentially alone in a way that no 6-year-old, no 7-year-old, no 8-year-old should ever feel. I started hunching over, physically curling into myself as if I could make myself small enough to disappear. My posture became so bad that I developed actual spine problems. My shoulders perpetually rolled forward, my neck jutting out, my whole body folding inward like a flower closing at night. When I was 12, my parents decided to move back to Los Angeles again. My dad had gotten a better job opportunity, something that would finally pay enough for us to have some stability, maybe even save a little money. I begged them not to make me go. I'd just started to make a few friends in Riverside. I had a teacher who was kind to me. I'd found a tiny bit of solid ground. But we went anyway. This second stint in LA was somehow worse than the first. I was older now, more aware, more conscious of how different I was. The country girl from the small town. The kid who dressed weird because we shopped at thrift stores. The one who didn't know the right music, the right slang, the right anything. The bullying intensified. Not just name-calling anymore, but actual physical intimidation. Girls who'd shove me in the hallway. Boys who'd steal my lunch and throw it in the trash. I lived in this constant state of mourning, not just for Joseph anymore, but for any sense of normalcy, any sense of home. My whole family felt like ghosts haunting each other. We moved through the same house but barely interacted except to fight. My mom would cycle between functioning and completely breaking down. She'd be okay for a few weeks, making meals, helping with homework, getting dressed and putting on makeup, and then something would trigger her. A song Joseph liked. A boy on the street who looked like him from behind. April 7th rolling around again. She'd collapse into bed and stay there for days, sometimes weeks. I'd hear her crying through the walls at night, this awful animal sound of grief that never fully healed. She told me recently about a moment she's never forgotten. She was in bed, deep in one of her episodes, and she was saying out loud, maybe to God, maybe to nobody, I want to die. I just want to die. I can't do this anymore. And apparently I climbed onto the bed. I was maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I put my small hand on her arm and said, Mama, I'm your daughter too. I'm still here. I'm hungry. Can you please make me something to eat? She said that snapped her out of it, at least temporarily. She got up, made me a peanut butter sandwich, and managed to function for a few more days before the grief pulled her under again. But here's the thing. As a child, I didn't understand that her depression wasn't about me, wasn't a rejection of me. I just felt invisible. I felt like I wasn't enough to make her want to live. Before we continue with this story, I want to pause for a moment. If you're watching this right now and you've experienced anything similar, if you've dealt with childhood trauma, if you've lost someone who held your family together, if you felt invisible in your own home, please know you're not alone. Please subscribe to this channel and hit that notification bell. Leave a like so more people can find these stories. This is a safe space. This is a community of people who understand what it's like to survive things that should have broken us. My life became a repetitive cycle. Move to a new place, try to make friends, fail to make friends, get bullied, retreat further into myself, move again. We moved back to Riverside when I was 13, then to Fresno when I was 15, then back to LA when I was 16. I stopped trying to form attachments. What was the point? I'd just have to leave them behind anyway. I developed this deep primal fear of losing people, not just through death, but through distance, through change, through the inevitable ending of all relationships. It was easier to keep everyone at arm's length than to risk the pain of another goodbye. I became a ghost kid, walking through hallways without making eye contact, eating lunch alone, going straight home after school. I was invisible by choice, because being seen only brought pain. My family didn't hug. We didn't say I love you except on birthdays or Christmas. And even then it felt forced, obligatory. My parents weren't affectionate people. They came from backgrounds where emotion was weakness, where you just pushed through and didn't complain. The only affection I really received was from my dad, and only in small doses when he was home from his sales routes. He'd ruffle my hair, call me Mija, sometimes give me a quick squeeze. But he was gone so much that even that felt rare and precious. So where did I learn about love, about connection, about warmth, about the way people were supposed to treat each other? Music. I discovered music when I was around 13, during one of our stints back in Riverside. R&B, soul, Latin music. Songs that talked about love in this poetic, expansive way. Songs about passion and heartbreak and devotion. I'd put on headphones and disappear into these songs, learning about emotions my family never expressed. Artists like Alicia Keys, Mary J., Blige, Selena, they taught me that people could love each other openly, could say tender things, could express vulnerability without shame. Music became my teacher, my therapist, my best friend. When we moved to Fresno when I was 15, something started to shift slightly. We rebuilt our family unit there. My older sister Naomi had separated from her husband and moved in with us along with her 2 kids. So suddenly we had this multi-generational household. My oldest brother from my mom's first marriage, Miguel, lived nearby. I started making a few friends through music. I'd go to open mic nights at coffee shops just to listen. Eventually, I got brave enough to sing, barely a whisper, shaking like a leaf. But people were kind. They encouraged me. For the first time since Joseph died, I felt like maybe I could exist in the world without drowning. I got my first real job at 16, working at a cosmetics store in the mall. It terrified me at first because I had to talk to customers, had to be friendly and outgoing, had to pretend to be a normal person. But I learned. Slowly, I developed a work persona. Cheerful Jessica, helpful Jessica, the girl who could recommend the perfect lipstick shade. It wasn't really me, but it was a version of me that could function in society. I made friends there, real friends, some of whom I'm still close with today. They watched me slowly come out of my shell, bit by bit, like a turtle testing whether the coast was clear. After the cosmetics store, I worked at a clothing boutique. Then I did some modeling for local photographers. Nothing fancy, just lifestyle shots for small brands. The photographers liked that I had an interesting face. That's code for not conventionally pretty but compelling in photos. I got into photography myself, bought a used camera, and started teaching myself how to use it, watching YouTube tutorials in my bedroom at night. For the first time in my life, I had interests, hobbies, a tiny bit of an identity beyond the sad girl whose brother died. Then, when I was 17, nearly 18, something wild happened. I auditioned for The Voice. I'd been working as a photographer's assistant in Arizona. I'd taken a temporary gig helping a wedding photographer for a few weeks, and during a lunch break, I saw an ad for open auditions. On a complete whim, riding some kind of manic confidence I didn't usually possess, I filled out the online form. "You won't make it anyway," I told myself. "It doesn't matter. Just do it for fun." 2 weeks later, I got a call. I'd made it past the initial screening. They wanted me to come to in-person auditions in Los Angeles. I completely panicked. I called my parents from Arizona, literally shaking. "I don't think I'm ready for this. I still can't eat in restaurants without having anxiety attacks. I can't be in crowds. How am I supposed to be on national television?" My mom, surprisingly, pushed me. "Jessica, when are you going to get another opportunity like this? You have to try. You'll regret it forever if you don't." So I went. And I passed the first round, then the second round. Each time I thought, this is it. They're going to realize I'm not good enough. But I kept advancing. I made it all the way to the blind auditions, the part that actually airs on TV. I sang my heart out in front of those 4 red chairs, pouring every ounce of emotion I had into a song by Alicia Keys. But none of the coaches turned around. The producers were kind about it, told me I had real talent and should keep pursuing music. But that day wasn't my day. I was devastated. For weeks, I felt like I'd failed at the one thing that had given me hope. But looking back now, I realized that experience taught me something crucial. I could stand on a stage in front of people and survive. I could put myself out there and not completely fall apart. During the waiting period between rounds, and after my elimination, I went back to Fresno and picked up photography and modeling work to pay my bills and distract myself from the disappointment. That's when everything changed. A friend of mine, Jake, a videographer I'd worked with before, called me about a last-minute gig. "Hey Jess, I need you for a photo shoot tonight. It's at this new burger place that's opening. The owner wants promo shots. Can you do it?" I hesitated. My dad had just gotten news that day about possible throat cancer. He was going for a biopsy the next morning. I was emotionally wrecked, not in the headspace to smile for cameras. "Jake, I really don't think I'm up for it. I'm not in a good place mentally. Whatever I do, I want to do it well. And tonight, I can't. Please, Jess. The owner is paying really well, and I already told him you'd come. I need you there." So I went. The shoot went fine, I guess. We worked for hours. The place wasn't even fully set up yet, so we were moving equipment around, trying different angles, creating atmosphere where there wasn't much yet. It was almost 2 a.m. by the time we wrapped. That's when the owner showed up. Ryan Mitchell. He was 26, tall, clean-cut, with this easy smile that I'd later learn was his most effective weapon. He walked straight up to me, hand extended. "Hey, you must be Jessica. Thanks for coming out so late. Have you eaten? Can I get you anything?" It was already 2 a.m. I was exhausted and emotionally drained and wanted nothing more than to go home and crawl into bed. "No, thank you. I'm fine," I said politely, and I turned away to pack up my equipment. As I walked to Jake's car, I overheard Ryan talking to someone. I didn't know who at the time, but I heard his voice clearly in the quiet parking lot. "What's her problem? She's pretty, but damn, she's cold as ice." It hit me like a slap. My whole life, I'd been building walls to protect myself. I'd perfected the art of being distant, untouchable, safe, and I'd gotten so good at it that even showing up and doing a job made me seem like a bitch. I got in the car and I cried. Like, really cried. Jake didn't know what to do. He'd never seen me crack like that. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "I'm fine," I lied. "Just tired." But I wasn't fine. For the first time, I felt the weight of how much Joseph's death had broken me, how much it had stolen from me. I was 22 years old, and I didn't know how to be warm, how to be open, how to let people in. Weeks passed. I tried to forget about it. I had another photo shoot with a different friend. A project for a domestic violence awareness campaign, actually. The shoot was at a small studio, and we needed furniture for the set. Jake mentioned that Ryan, the burger guy, had offered to lend us some vintage chairs and a table from his restaurant's storage. "Cool," I said, trying to sound casual even though my stomach flipped at the mention of his name. After the shoot, I messaged Ryan on Facebook. "Hey, thanks for letting us use your furniture. I really appreciate your generosity." Petty Jessica, the one I didn't usually let out, added, "Sorry if I seemed cold the other night. I'd just gotten some bad family news, but I'm glad you liked my work despite my lack of warmth." I was calling him out, gently, testing to see if he'd acknowledge what he'd said. He did. "Look, I'm sorry about that comment. I was out of line. For what it's worth, your work was incredible. Maybe just a touch less makeup next time? But honestly, the photos were great." Now I was actually annoyed. The agreement with Jake was that I'd show up however I felt comfortable. There was no specific direction given about my appearance. But if you want to reshoot with different styling, I'm available. No, the photos are perfect. And you're right. You should show up however you want. I was being an ass. There was a pause in the messages. Then, why make enemies when we could be friends, right? I softened slightly. I guess, though I generally keep work and personal separate. Fair enough. The conversation ended there. But over the next few weeks, he'd message occasionally. Casual stuff. "How was your day? Did you see that new indie film at the theater downtown?" We started talking about music. He loved John Mayer, the Black Keys, old school R&B. So did I. Then about vintage cars. He restored classic Mustangs as a hobby, and I'd always been drawn to older aesthetics, vintage fashion, retro diners. We liked the same movies, the same quiet, low-key lifestyle. He found out I'd auditioned for The Voice and didn't make it past the blind auditions. "You know what?" he said. "That just means you're meant for something different. Not everyone is meant for that kind of fame. Maybe your path is more authentic, more real." His words felt like balm on a wound I didn't realize was still open. Eventually, he asked me out. Properly. "Can I take you somewhere? It's related to music. I know someone who could help you with vocal coaching. You shouldn't give up on singing just because one show didn't work out." I asked Jake, "Should I go? Do you trust this guy?" "Yeah, he's solid. Kind of intense about his work, but a good dude." So I agreed. Ryan picked me up and drove me to meet Antonio Diaz, the best vocal coach in Fresno. Antonio made me sing for him. I was terrified, shaking, could barely get through a full verse. But he was so encouraging. "Your tone is really unique," Antonio said. "Most singers around here sound the same. You've got something different, something raw." I felt like I might cry from relief and joy. Music had saved me throughout my childhood. The possibility of actually pursuing it professionally felt like a door opening to a life I'd only dreamed about. Ryan and I started talking more after that. He'd call me after work, sometimes for hours. We'd talk about everything, music, family, childhood, dreams. I told him about Joseph, about the constant moving, about my depression and anxiety. He listened, really listened. He'd ask follow-up questions. He seemed to care. When he asked me to be his girlfriend, it felt natural, safe. Like finally, someone saw me and didn't run away. He treated me well at first, or what I thought was well because I had no reference point for healthy relationships. He bought me small gifts, took me to nice dinners, introduced me to his friends like he was proud to be with me. Looking back now, I can see it was all love bombing, classic manipulation. But at the time, with my history of emotional neglect, it felt like the sun breaking through clouds. My mom has this metaphor she uses. You were drowning in the ocean, and he was a piece of driftwood. Of course you grabbed on. 3 months into dating, I found out I was pregnant. I'd always had severe reproductive health issues, endometriosis, ovarian cysts, extremely painful and irregular periods. Multiple doctors had told me that conceiving would be very difficult, maybe impossible without medical intervention. I'd actually been relieved by that news as a teenager. After watching my mom suffer so much, after carrying the weight of her grief, I'd decided I didn't want children. I was going to focus on my career, help support my parents financially, travel the world. But there I was, 3 months into this relationship, taking a pregnancy test in a CVS bathroom at 5:30 p.m. on a Thursday, while my hair colorist friend waited outside the stall. Jessica? Has it been long enough? What does it say? I stared at the 2 pink lines. My hands went completely numb. The fluorescent bathroom lighting suddenly seemed too bright, too harsh. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. Jess? I'm pregnant. Oh shit. Oh honey, are you okay? Was I okay? I had no idea. I was 22 years old. I barely knew this man. I'd just lost a job. I was living with my parents. I had maybe $600 in my bank account. But somewhere under the panic, there was this tiny flutter of something. Hope? Possibility? The chance to have a family of my own? One I could do better with than what I'd grown up in? I prepared a surprise for Ryan. I bought a tiny gray onesie, neutral, in case he wasn't happy, with a little stuffed elephant, and I wrapped them with the pregnancy test in a gift box. That night, before we were supposed to go to a food truck event he was working, I handed him the box in his car. I need to tell you something. I don't know what to do with this. He opened it slowly. I watched his face carefully, trying to read his reaction. For a moment, nothing. Then a huge smile. He pulled me into his arms. Thank God it was with you. What? I mean it. If this was going to happen, I'm so glad it's with you and not... He trailed off. He'd broken up with his long-term girlfriend, Madison, 4 months before we met. 8 years together. Ended badly. Do you want this? I asked, terrified of the answer. Yes. We'll get married. We'll have this baby. I'll take care of both of you. I promise. That night, he asked to speak to my parents. My dad was skeptical. I'd been dating this guy for 3 months. I barely knew him. And now I was pregnant? But Ryan was convincing. He had a successful business. He was stable. He was 26, not some teenage deadbeat. I'll be good to her, sir. Ryan promised my dad. I'll be a good husband and a good father. You have my word. My dad looked at me. Are you sure about this? No. But I said, yes. Then you have my blessing. But if you hurt my daughter, if you don't take care of my grandchild, we're going to have problems. And just like that, I moved in with Ryan and his mother. Ryan's mom, Patricia, was one of the best parts of that relationship. She was in her early 50s, had worked blue-collar jobs her whole life, had raised Ryan mostly alone after his dad walked out when he was 8. She and I bonded instantly. Within weeks, I felt closer to her than I'd ever felt to my own mother. We'd cook together, go shopping together, watch soap operas in the evening while Ryan worked late. She taught me how to make the best pinto beans I've ever tasted in my life. Hours of slow cooking with bay leaves and garlic, and this specific technique of smashing some of the beans to make the broth creamy. To this day, I make beans the way Patricia taught me. She taught me how to fold fitted sheets properly. Sounds silly, but I'd never learned. She showed me how to get stains out of baby clothes, how to organize a pantry efficiently, how to meal prep for the week. She was the mother figure I'd needed my whole life. Warm, present, interested in me as a person. Ryan worked crazy hours at the burger restaurant. He had 2 business partners, and they were trying to expand to multiple locations. Patricia worked there too, managing inventory and bookkeeping. So our household schedule was chaotic, but when we were all home together, it felt like family. But then things started shifting. Around my second trimester, Ryan started saying strange things. "Don't tell my mom about your doctor's appointments." "Why not?" "She wants to be involved. She's getting jealous. She's afraid of losing me now that we're having a baby. Just keep her at a distance. Don't share too much." I was confused. Patricia didn't seem jealous to me. She seemed excited. She'd always wanted grandchildren. But I trusted Ryan. He knew his mom better than I did, right? So I started pulling back, keeping pregnancy updates to myself, having shorter conversations, creating distance where there hadn't been any before. Patricia noticed. Of course she noticed. She'd ask about my ultrasounds, and I'd give vague answers. She'd ask if I needed anything, and I'd say no even when I needed help. I could see the hurt in her eyes, but Ryan kept reinforcing. "She's manipulative. She's trying to come between us. Trust me." When I was 8 months pregnant, I was home alone one afternoon, feeling terrible. Braxton Hicks contractions, nausea, exhaustion. I called Ryan 3 times. No answer. Patricia came home from work and found me on the couch, clearly in distress. "Honey, what's wrong? Should we go to the hospital?" "No, I'm okay. It's just practice contractions." She sat with me, brought me water and crackers, rubbed my back. And then she said something I didn't fully understand at the time. "He's never going to change, you know. He likes other things more than he'll ever like responsibility. He'll use you, and then he'll discard you, just like he does with everything else in his life." I was shocked. "Why would you say that about your own son?" "Because I know him. I raised him, and I love him, but I see who he is." She looked at me with such sadness. "Take care of yourself and this baby, because he won't." Not really. A few days later, Patricia said something that stung at the time. "Your chest is so small. Are you sure you'll be able to make enough milk for the baby?" I was hurt. I'd been studying breastfeeding for months, watching videos, reading books. I knew that breast size had nothing to do with milk production. I pulled even further away from her, convinced she was being petty and jealous like Ryan said. Now I understand. She was lashing out because I'd withdrawn from her. Ryan had poisoned our relationship by putting thoughts in both our heads, and we were both losing the bond we'd built. My son, Anthony, was born on October 15th, 2018. Labor was hard, 36 hours, ending in an emergency C-section because his heart rate kept dropping. When they finally pulled him out and placed him on my chest, this tiny, screaming, perfect human, I felt a love so intense it was almost frightening. Ryan was there for the birth. He cut the umbilical cord, took photos, seemed present, but something was off. He was on his phone constantly, stepping out to take calls, even in the delivery room. "It's the restaurant," he'd say. "I'll be right back." Patricia wanted to visit in the hospital, but Ryan said no. "Let's wait until you're home. The hospital is too stressful." So I went home to my parents' house for the first week, to avoid tension with Patricia, and she didn't meet her grandson until he was 5 days old. When she finally saw him, she cried. But there was distance between us now, a wall that Ryan had carefully constructed. After a week at my parents', I went back to the house I shared with Ryan and Patricia. We existed in the same space like polite strangers. She'd glance at Anthony longingly, but rarely asked to hold him, because Ryan had told her I was being overprotective and not letting anyone near the baby. That was a lie. My mom held Anthony all the time. My sister did. Ryan's best friend, who we'd chosen as godfather, held him during his very first visit. But Ryan needed us isolated from each other. It's what abusers do. They cut you off from anyone who might see through them, who might protect you. A few months after Anthony was born, we moved out of Patricia's house into our own place. She came to visit exactly once. After that, never again. Ryan said it was because she was bitter about us moving out. Looking back, I think it's because she couldn't stand to watch what he was doing to me and felt powerless to stop it. Around this time, Anthony was maybe 4 months old, Ryan's business partnership exploded. His 2 partners accused him of embezzlement, of taking money from the company for personal use, of falsifying financial records. Ryan denied everything, said his partners were jealous of his success, that they'd always resented that he was the creative force behind the brand. One day, without warning, the partners changed the locks on the restaurant. Patricia, who still worked there, was suddenly an outsider too. They eventually fired her. Ryan lost everything. the restaurant, the brand he'd built, his entire income. We were left with a food truck, a converted Volkswagen van, and nothing else. "We'll start over," Ryan said. "We'll build something even better." And we did. God help me. I worked my ass off to help him rebuild. I was up at 5 a.m. with a 4-month-old baby, cleaning and prepping the truck, sourcing ingredients, managing social media, taking orders, handling money, all while breastfeeding and trying to keep a whole human alive. We built a new brand from scratch, got new clients, started making money again. I thought we were a team, partners, building our future together. I had no idea what was really happening. During this time, Patricia started getting sick. She'd always had health problems, diabetes, high blood pressure, but now she was deteriorating faster. She'd call Ryan for help getting to doctor appointments, and he'd sigh heavily and complain about being busy. When COVID hit in early 2020, everything got worse. We couldn't operate the food truck on the streets anymore. Ryan decided we'd operate out of Patricia's house, use her kitchen, her space. She was exhausted. She worked the business all day, came home hoping to rest, but her house had been transformed into a commercial kitchen. There was no peace for her anywhere. She called Ryan one afternoon. "I don't feel good. I think I need to go to the ER. Ryan's response: "Are you serious right now? We're in the middle of a pandemic. We're trying to stay afloat. Can't you just deal with it?" "Ryan," I started. "She's always doing this, always dramatic." Patricia went to the ER alone. Probably took an Uber or had a neighbor drive her. She went back 2 more times over the next week. The 3rd time, she didn't come home. Patricia died on April 22nd, 2020. She was 52 years old. Heart failure, complicated by diabetes and kidney disease. The doctor called Ryan at 6 p.m. "You should come to the hospital. We need to talk to you about your mother." Ryan hung up and immediately called me. His voice was flat, emotionless. "I think she died." "What? Are you sure?" "Yeah. The doctor wants me to come down there. Do you want me to come with you?" "No. Stay there and keep the kitchen running. We have orders to fill." I stood there in Patricia's kitchen. She'd been dead for maybe 20 minutes, and Ryan wanted me to keep making burgers for customers. "Ryan, we should close for the day. Your mom just died." "No. Keep working. I'll be back in an hour." The staff was in tears. Everyone loved Patricia. She'd been the heart of the operation, the one who actually cared about people, who asked how you were doing and meant it. But we kept working, because Ryan said so. He came home late that night. He climbed into bed without saying much. I held him while he cried. It was the first and only time I saw him cry about his mother's death. The next day, he didn't plan anything. Didn't call the funeral home. Didn't arrange anything. Patricia's brother, Ryan's uncle, did everything. I cleaned out Patricia's house over the next few weeks. I found boxes and boxes of Ryan's childhood stuff, baby teeth in tiny envelopes labeled with the date they fell out. His first shoes, little white sneakers carefully preserved. Birthday cards she'd saved from every single year of his life. A lock of his hair from his first haircut. Hundreds of photos. Ryan as a baby, a toddler, a kid, a teenager. Patricia had documented every moment of his life. I brought it all to Ryan. "Look at this. Look at how much she loved you." He barely glanced at it. "What am I supposed to do with all that? Keep it? Remember her? This is your entire childhood. I don't need it." I packed it all carefully into storage. I kept everything, even though he didn't want it. After Patricia died, Ryan became almost completely absent. He'd leave at 8 a.m. to come home at 2 or 3 a.m., sleep 4 hours, repeat. I was home alone with Anthony and our 5 dogs, grieving Patricia, managing the household, trying to hold everything together. One of our dogs got sick, the mother of a litter we'd had, an older retriever mix named Bella. "Ryan, Bella needs to go to the vet. She's not eating. She's lethargic. Something's really wrong. I'm too busy. Please. She needs help. Figure it out." I didn't drive. I couldn't lift a 60-pound dog by myself while managing a toddler. I needed help. Bella died a week later. Treatable infection, progressed because we waited too long. I felt like I was failing everyone and everything. 6 months after Patricia died, I got pregnant again. Ryan didn't look at me for 3 days, not once. He'd walk into rooms, see me, and walk back out. He wouldn't speak to me, wouldn't acknowledge me. On the 4th day, I confronted him. What is going on with you? Nothing. You haven't spoken to me in 3 days. I'm pregnant, and you're acting like I don't exist. Silence. Do you want a divorce? Is that what this is? Finally, he spoke. I don't know what I want. This isn't the right time for another baby. It wasn't planned for me either. But we're married. We have a home. We have a business. We can do this. I can't think about it right now. That was the extent of our conversation about our daughter. During my entire second pregnancy, Ryan was a ghost. I set up Maria's nursery completely alone. I chose the crib, the changing table, the decorations. I painted the walls myself, pale yellow with white clouds, 8 months pregnant, on a ladder, while Ryan was God knows where. I did everything. Doctor's appointments alone, ultrasounds alone, preparing for a second baby while caring for a 2-year-old and running parts of a business. There were signs, if I'd been willing to see them. He'd come home late, sometimes not until sunrise, smelling like perfume that wasn't mine. His phone was password protected and always face down. He'd get texts at 2 a.m. and step outside to answer calls. But I was drowning. I was exhausted. I was in survival mode, and I trusted him. Despite everything, I still trusted him. Maria was born on July 14, 2021, the same day Ryan's new restaurant opened. It wasn't a food truck anymore. His 2 new business partners had helped him open an actual location, a sit-down burger restaurant with craft beer and a full menu. I went into labor that morning. Ryan drove me to the hospital, but his mind was clearly elsewhere. He was texting his partners, coordinating last-minute details for the opening. In the delivery room, while I was in active labor, he was scrolling through his phone with a slight smile. What's so funny? I asked between contractions. Nothing. Just, the crew is excited about tonight. Our daughter was born at 2:47 p.m. The restaurant opened to the public at 5 p.m. Ryan held Maria for maybe 30 seconds, long enough for a nurse to take a photo, and then handed her back. I need to get to the restaurant. Big night. You're leaving? I'll be back later. You're in good hands here. He left, and I realized, lying in that hospital bed with my newborn daughter in my arms, that I was truly alone in this marriage. The next crisis came weeks later. Before Maria's birth, I'd spoken to my doctor about permanent birth control. I've had severe health issues with hormonal birth control. I have 2 kids now. My family feels complete. I'd like to get a tubal ligation during the C-section. My doctor supported this. It was my body, my choice. But on the drive to the hospital, Ryan started pressuring me. Are you sure you want to do this? It's so final. What if we want more kids later? I don't want more kids. My body can't handle more pregnancies. It's expensive. We don't have a lot of money right now. You just opened a restaurant. You told me the business was doing great. It's complicated. We argued all the way to the hospital, but I stood my ground. The ligation happened. What I didn't know, Ryan had been secretly draining our joint account. He'd taken out a personal loan in my name, using my social security number, forging my signature, and hadn't paid a single installment. I found out months later when I tried to apply for a credit card and discovered my credit score had tanked. Ryan had destroyed my financial identity while I was recovering from childbirth. Maria's first months were impossibly hard. My nipples cracked and bled from breastfeeding. Exactly what Patricia had worried about, though for different reasons than she'd thought. I needed a lactation consultant, but they cost $400, and Ryan said we couldn't afford it. So I suffered alone, watching YouTube videos, asking friends for advice, crying through every feeding while my nipples literally bled into my daughter's mouth. I'd call Ryan. Please come home. I need help. I'm in so much pain. I'm working. You're fine. One night, around 2 a.m., he came home to find me crying, both kids awake and fussy, the house a disaster. He exploded. Why are you making everyone suffer? Anthony can't sleep because Maria is always on your chest. You're being selfish. You're making our son's life miserable. That was the first time he'd raised his voice at me in anger. The first crack in the mask. I swallowed my tears, got the kids settled, and didn't call him for help again. Eventually, my milk dried up. Between the stress, the pain, the lack of support, my body just gave up. The restaurant was open now. I wasn't allowed to visit often. Ryan said I needed to stay home with the kids, but people started talking. Employees would mention casually, "That girl Madison is here a lot." Like every single day, Madison, Ryan's ex-girlfriend, the one he'd dated for 8 years before me. Why is she coming to the restaurant? I asked Ryan. I don't know. She's friends with some of the staff. It's a public place. Every day seems excessive. Are you seriously starting this jealous wife thing? I'm trying to build a business. I let it go. I was too tired to fight. But then, a waitress I'd known before Ryan and I even met, a girl named Sophia who'd become a friend, pulled me aside one day. Jessica, I need to tell you something. Madison is here constantly. She flirts with Ryan. She hangs on the bar, plays with the stir stick in her drink, makes eyes at him. And last week, I saw her take his drink stirrer out of his mouth and put it in hers. Then they both disappeared for like 2 hours. My blood went cold. Are you sure? I wouldn't tell you if I wasn't sure. I like you. This isn't fair to you. I started asking other employees. They all said similar things. Something's going on. It's not right. You should know. Then employees started quitting, one by one. People who'd worked for Ryan for years were suddenly walking out. One guy, married to a friend of mine, quit and sent a group text to me, Ryan, and Ryan's business partners. Good luck with everything. Don't worry. Your secret is safe with me. What secret? I asked my friend. Does Marco know something? She hesitated. I don't have proof. But check Ryan's phone. I think there's stuff on there you should see. I spent weeks trying to gather evidence. Ryan was careful. He'd delete messages, clear his browser history, keep his phone locked. Then one night, Ryan asked me to grab something from his bag. Medication, I think. Which pocket? I asked. Inside pocket. I unzipped the bag. Right there, at the bottom, was a gold hoop earring. Madison's earring. I'd recognize it anywhere. She wore distinctive jewelry, always gold, always statement pieces. I checked her Instagram. She'd posted a selfie 2 days earlier wearing different earrings. My heart was pounding so hard I thought I might pass out. I took a photo of the earring with my phone, put it back, and said nothing. The next day I messaged Madison. Hey, I found your gold hoop earring by the table you were sitting at yesterday. Want me to save it for you? Her response was ice cold. That's not mine, Jessica. She'd always called me Jess before. Always been warm, friendly. Now it was Jessica, formal and distant. She knew that I knew. I need to pause here for a moment. If you've made it this far in this story, thank you for listening. Thank you for witnessing. If you're going through something similar right now, if you're being gaslit, if you're starting to see cracks in the facade, if you're scared but not yet ready to leave, please know that you're not crazy. Trust your gut, and when you're ready, there's a whole community ready to catch you. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. Leave a comment below, not just for the algorithm, but because I read every single one, and your words matter. I couldn't keep living with the suspicion. I needed proof, or I needed to be proven wrong. Either way, I needed the truth. I remembered a girl, Amber, who used to come to the restaurant with Madison all the time. They'd been inseparable for months. Then suddenly, Amber stopped showing up. She'd unfollowed Madison on all social media. If anyone knew the truth, it would be her. I sent her a message. Hey Amber, I know we don't know each other well, but I need to ask you something about Madison. 30 minutes later, my phone rang. Is this about her and Ryan? Amber asked immediately. Yes. I've been waiting for this call. I knew eventually you'd figure it out and reach out. She sighed. I don't have any reason to lie to you, Jessica, so I'm just going to tell you. Yes. They've been together for over a year, maybe longer. I stopped being friends with her because I couldn't watch her do that to you. The room spun. Anthony was playing with blocks on the living room floor. Maria was napping in her crib. Everything looked normal, mundane, safe, but my entire reality had just shattered. Are you sure? I'm sure. I've seen them together. I've heard her talk about him. I'm sorry. Over a year. That meant it started before I got pregnant with Maria. It started while Patricia was dying. It started while I was working 16-hour days to help him rebuild his business. Madison had been sleeping with my husband while sitting at my kitchen table, asking me for fashion advice, telling me I was such a great mom, requesting that I sing her favorite songs. I thanked Amber and hung up. Then I put both kids in my lap, and I sobbed. Deep, ugly, body-shaking sobs. When Ryan came home that night, I was calm, eerily calm. I need to talk to you. About what? I know about Madison. I have proof. I've talked to multiple people. I know everything. So you can either tell me the truth, or I can show you what I have and we can do this the hard way. I was bluffing. I didn't have hard evidence, just testimonies, but I needed him to crack. He stared at me for a long moment. Then he laughed. Actually laughed. Is that what you want to hear? Fine. Yes, I slept with her. Yes, I'm still sleeping with her. Happy now? Is that what you wanted? I want to know why. Why would you do this to your family? Because she's hot. Because she's fun. Because she doesn't nag me about being home or helping with the kids. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. So what now? He continued. You're going to divorce me? You have no money, no credit, no job. Where are you going to go? You need me. Get out. What? Pack your things and get out of my house. It's not your house. It's our house. Get out. He threw his clothes into trash bags and left. And then the real revelations started coming. Over the next few days, people who'd been too scared to talk before started reaching out. Waitresses from the restaurant. He slept with me too. I'm so sorry. He said you were separated. Customers. I didn't know he was married. He told me he was single. His best friend called me. Drunk and guilty. Every time he said he was on a business trip. He was at strip clubs, casinos, hotels with other women. That time Anthony was sick and you were trying to get money for the ER? He'd just spent $500 buying bottle service for a table of girls. The betrayals stacked up. 5 women, 10 women. I stopped counting. And the drugs. Ryan had always been vehemently anti-drug. He'd lecture employees who smoked weed. He'd talk about how addiction was a choice, how weak people use substances as crutches. But he was using cocaine. Regularly. I found it in his car, in his coat pocket, in his damn work bag where our infant daughter almost got into it. One afternoon, Maria was crawling around the apartment. She was about 10 months old, just starting to explore. I heard rustling, plastic crinkling. I ran into the living room. She had Ryan's bag open and was reaching for a small plastic baggie of white powder. If she'd opened it. If she'd put it in her mouth. I grabbed her, grabbed the bag, and I had a full-blown panic attack. I couldn't breathe. I called a friend. You need to come get this out of my house. I can't have this near my kids. That was the final straw. Ryan had to go, permanently. But the legal system doesn't care about your trauma. It doesn't care that you're terrified, that you have 2 small kids, that you have no money or credit or job prospects. The court process was agonizingly slow. I filed for divorce, for child support, for custody arrangements. Ryan fought everything. He claimed I was mentally unstable, that I was keeping the kids from him out of spite, that I'd abandoned the family by moving to a different city for work, even though I'd moved because he wouldn't pay for groceries, wouldn't pay for diapers, left me with no choice but to find employment elsewhere. I had to get a job. Multiple jobs. I worked as a restaurant manager in Modesto, then in San Francisco. I juggled childcare, court dates, my own deteriorating mental and physical health. I lost 15 pounds in 3 weeks. My hair fell out in clumps. I was diagnosed with PTSD, severe anxiety, depression. I couldn't sleep without medication. When I did sleep, I had nightmares about them together. But I also started singing again. I'd stopped performing during my marriage. Ryan had discouraged it, said I needed to focus on the family and the business. But after I left, I found my voice again. My first show was at a community center in San Francisco, 50 people in the audience. I sang songs by powerful women, Tracy Chapman, Alicia Keys, artists who'd sustained me through my childhood. I cried through half the set. The audience cried with me. After that, I was booked for more shows, and more, and more. 2 years later, I'm performing regularly all over California. I've been invited to major venues. I've built a following. Ryan's parting words to me, "What are you going to do now? Sing? You can't sing, Jessica. You're nothing without me." Turns out I'm a lot more than nothing. But the story doesn't end with my triumphant music career, because Ryan wasn't done hurting me yet. After months of me living in San Francisco, working, sending the kids to visit him on weekends per court order, things were settling into a rhythm. I'd found a decent apartment. The kids were in good schools. I was making enough money to survive. Then came the weekend that changed everything. Ryan was supposed to return the kids on Sunday evening, 6 p.m. And like always, 6 o'clock came and went. No Ryan, no kids. I called him. Voicemail. I texted him. Nothing. At 8 p.m., He finally answered. Where are my children? Our children. And they're with me. It's your drop-off time. Bring them home. No. What do you mean, no? I mean, I'm keeping them. You moved them to another city against my wishes. You've been poisoning them against me. So I'm keeping them. And there's nothing you can do about it. Ryan, this is kidnapping. There's a court order. Sue me. You won't see these kids again. Not through the police. Not through lawyers. They're mine now. He hung up. I called the police. They said it was a civil matter. They couldn't intervene without a court order. I called my lawyer. He said we'd have to file an emergency motion. But that could take days. Days. My babies would be gone for days. I didn't sleep for 48 hours. I barely ate. I called everyone I could think of. Ryan's family, mutual friends, former employees, trying to get information, trying to get someone to help. His aunt blocked me. His cousins blocked me. His new girlfriend, Madison, blocked me. On the third day, I remembered. Anthony had a pediatrician appointment scheduled for Thursday, a routine checkup. I called Dr. Morrison, explained what was happening. Come to the office on Thursday. I'll make sure to call Ryan and tell him the appointment is mandatory. He won't know you'll be there. Thursday arrived. I got to Dr. Morrison's office at 9 a.m. My parents came with me for support. We waited in the parking lot. At 9:30, Ryan's car pulled up. I saw my babies in the back seat. Anthony was looking out the window. Maria was in her car seat, her tiny hand pressed against the glass. Ryan left them in the car with his aunt, the one who'd been helping him hide the kids, and went inside alone. The second he disappeared through the clinic doors, I ran to the car. "Mama!" Anthony screamed when he saw me. I yanked the door open. His aunt started yelling, "You can't do this! This is illegal!" "Call the cops then," I shot back. I unbuckled both kids, scooped them up, one on each hip, my C-section scar screaming in protest, and ran to my dad's car. Ryan came flying out of the clinic. He grabbed my arm, tried to pull me back, actually hurt me in front of both children. "Let go of me," I screamed. My dad got between us. "Get your hands off my daughter. Police sirens." Someone had called them. The officers listened to both sides, checked the court documents, informed Ryan that without a modified custody agreement, the children were supposed to be with me. He didn't even say goodbye to them, just got in his car and left. I held my kids in the back of my dad's car and I sobbed. Anthony kept patting my face. "Don't cry, Mama. We're okay now." But we weren't okay. Not really. I had to file a restraining order. I had to fight for months to get the custody arrangement I needed. Ryan dragged everything out, made everything as difficult as possible. To this day, he treats our children differently. He takes Anthony to fun outings, buys him expensive gifts. He barely acknowledges Maria. She's noticed. She asks me, "Why doesn't Daddy love me like he loves Anthony?" How do you answer that question? How do you tell your 4-year-old daughter that her father is punishing her for being born, for existing, for being collateral damage in his war against me? So here's where I am now. I live in Riverside, the city where I was born, the city that hurt me so badly. But I'm winning here. I'm thriving here. I perform regularly at major venues. My first big show was called Women Up Front, a tribute to female artists who sustained me through the darkest times. I started a nonprofit supporting domestic violence survivors. We collect donations at my shows, food, clothing, toiletries. We're opening a resource center soon, offering legal aid, therapy referrals, job training. My kids are happy, really happy. Our apartment is bright and colorful. We dance in the kitchen. We sing together. We talk about our feelings. Anthony told me recently, "Mama, you used to be sad all the time. Now you're happy. Our house used to be black and white, and now it's full of colors." We try so hard to hide our pain from our children, but they see everything. They feel everything. I'm still fighting Ryan in court. He filed a declaration of poverty, claiming he can't afford child support, even though he owns a successful restaurant. The judge ordered him to pay $800 a month, provide health insurance, and cover school costs. He pays sporadically. Sometimes he's months behind, but I don't let the kids suffer for it. I work 3 jobs. I hustle. I make it work. I came out of that marriage with over $60,000 in debt that Ryan put in my name. I still can't get a credit card. I can't finance a car. My credit score is destroyed, but I'm rebuilding. Slowly. One day at a time. And I want you to know, if you're in the middle of your own nightmare right now, If you're reading this and seeing yourself in my story, it does get better. Not quickly, not easily, but it does get better. You are stronger than you know. You are worthy of truth, of respect, of genuine love. You deserve a partner who shows up, who does the work, who doesn't make you beg for basic decency. And you will survive this. I promise you, you will survive this. You'll lose people along the way. I lost almost all of our mutual friends. People believed Ryan's version of events. People thought I was vindictive, crazy, unstable. But the people who matter stuck around. And I built new relationships based on honesty and mutual respect. I'm not the same person I was when I met Ryan. I'm not even the same person I was when I left him. I'm stronger. I'm wiser. I'm more careful about who I let into my life. But I'm also more open to joy, more willing to be vulnerable, more capable of genuine connection. That's the silver lining in all this darkness. I found myself. The real Jessica. Not the ghost I'd been since Joseph died. Not the performing puppet I'd become in my marriage. I found my voice. Literally and metaphorically. And now I use that voice to tell stories. To sing. To advocate for other women going through what I went through. That's my purpose now. That's how I transform the pain into something meaningful. To anyone watching who needs to hear this, your story isn't over. This chapter might be horrific, but you're writing the next one. You get to decide what comes next. Don't let anyone tell you you're too broken to heal. Don't let anyone convince you that you deserved the abuse. Don't let anyone minimize what you survived. You are a warrior. You are a survivor. You are writing a comeback story that will inspire people you'll never even meet. Keep going. Keep fighting. Keep breathing. And when you're ready, find your voice and use it. The world needs to hear what you have to say,